Well, hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of our favorite The We Show. But who am I? Am I a friend? Am I an elder brother? Am I an entrepreneur? Well, you'll know in this episode, but all you need to know right now is my name is Aniket Gupta, and I'm the founder of Disruptex Labs, which is a fintech-focused blockchain studio. Over to the host of this V show, who I've known for around 10 years now, by the way, which is a decade, and that's crazy and that's great. But Weber, kick off the show for us.
Thank you, Aniket, for beautifully hosting the introduction and also for being here and taking out time to do this. I think काफी टाइम से हम लोग इस एपिसोड को वर्कआउट कराना चाह रहे थे, but this was not possible. But great that this is happening now. This episode is going to be one of the most personal episodes on this channel till now because I am here with someone with whom I have seen the last 10 years of my own journey, right? Be it professional, be it personal. So this is going to be interesting meetup of two founder friends and two people who went to the same college, come with same values and are working with the same spirit. Yep. So I think the first question to even start this should be more about the humble beginnings and how your journey to IIT happened.
Right.
So why don't you tell us more about it?
Right. So when I was in 9th grade, that is when I didn't have a choice, but the choice was in front of me to go do IIT and go to an IIT. So what happened was I was basically in my classroom, and during that classroom, just the principal's office sent some people to go get me. And I was like, hey, what happened? I'm just a 9th grade student and like nobody really cares. But then I got to the principal's office, there's my elder brother, and then everybody's like throwing garlands of him, giving him flowers and really praising him, and my parents were there as well. And so I got to know that my brother had gotten an all India rank in IIT of 125. I think he was the first or second in Uttar Pradesh, which is the largest state in India. And so at that point I knew that maybe this is time that I start studying because I wasn't a great student before that. And then that suddenly got me interested into, sitting down for an IIT and giving the most prestigious exam in the country. But yeah, I mean, things happened. The journey was very interesting, just very humble beginnings, obviously from a middle class family, don't have all the resources, but then have all the willingness. And so, we used to write on like dot pens instead of gel pens and use those rough copies which were of super substandard paper.
Instead of buying a new classmate copy.
Yeah, exactly.
For rough work, you are only given discarded.
Right. Made from I don't know what kind of recycled paper.
Yeah.
But it's very interesting that you have to use those copies, and all of us have done that. So yeah, I mean, just middle class beginnings. Brother got a big rank, so I had a big target to go break. And I definitely worked very hard. I didn't go to the best coaching, to be honest. I just went to small coaching in my hometown, and because we decided that I have all the content and the material of, IIT exams from FitG and all of that because of my brother. And so maybe I don't need to go to Kota or anywhere else. Anyway, I took that decision, finally cleared something. But then when my IIT result was declared, I was expecting an under 200 rank. I think some rank predictors had confused us about that. And so when I got the rank, it was 641, and my brother was actually typing the credentials for me, and as soon as he saw the number, he said, drop karna hai kya? and I looked at him and I said, हाँ यार कर देते हैं, ये तो बहुत खराब रैंक है. So that's how the conversation went. We were very sad about it whenever my result came. So even I think now it's a good rank.
तो नाम डुबा दिया भाई family का.
Exactly, right. And so I remember even after that, like one of my relatives came and they were like, मिठाई खिलाई मुझे. And they were like, IIT में तो हो गया ना बेटा, rank तो ऊपर नीचे लगी रहती है. And so that was the sentiment in our family. I had cleared IIT, but I was still not a god. I was like second to the god. So yeah, definitely great journey. And yeah, I mean, the IIT that we went to together is one of the most beautiful campuses here in India. And I'm glad to have met you there. But that was my little journey before IIT.
Great. I think a lot of relatable, incidents here, be it choosing the set of copies you need to do rough work upon, or even, selecting your ambition. Sometimes your goals or sometimes your career choices are not done merely by your interest because like one of the two reasons. One, because let's say you haven't spent time enough to discover your passion, or secondly, someone else gives you a passion to carry, which you carry assuming it's your own.
Yeah.
Right. So
beautifully said.
Even I think I remember during the 8th grade or 9th grade when you enter a new class and teachers start asking about what do you want to become. My best friend, he used to say that, I will do IIT and go to Australia. For some reason, a person like me felt that Australia is something which will give a lot of wealth and sounds like, rich people stuff.
White people,
And
clean air.
Yeah, and then it was the next imaginary land in my mind was that okay, we'll have money, so you can solve few problems you see on a daily level at your home and so on. But yeah, I mean, from that day onwards, even without researching in a deeper context, I started using the same as a response to when someone asked me what do you want to become, right? Yeah, this continued and eventually did some coaching and also ended up with a similar rank like yours. Disappointed.
Yeah, very close rank, right? We probably had a very close rank.
691.
Yeah, so we were just literally 38 ranks apart and probably the same marks.
So yeah, I mean, when we joined, I think most of my friends who were with me while in Kota were around either in IIT Kanpur, IIT Delhi or IIT Bombay. And to be honest, at that time it felt like, because of that sheer FOMO and the IIT rankings you see in the world, which I don't really feel is entirely exhaustive. There are different parameters on which these rankings can change. So yeah, I mean, ended up in IIT in a little disappointed and FOMO state of missing out from friends. But yeah, this journey actually taught us a lot about hard work and the grit and the resilience we have to things, and which I think we'll talk about now. About how we traversed our journey during IIT Roorkee.
Right.
So yeah, I think Roorkee has been really a shaper for us, like how it shaped us professionally or personally, right? Cool. Yeah, so I mean, when we started college, I think one thing which getting into IIT actually teaches most of the kids out there is a sense of discipline, a sense of consistency, and definitely a sense of hard work, And this is something which I feel that was the real change which came after going through, IIT preparation, where you have to solve problems, solve concepts, so on at a regular basis, at a consistent basis to, compete with each other in the world. Having said that, I think our IIT journey, because we were in the same branch as well, started of course on the same day with the same set of students and same set of friends we were with. Tell me more about your journey from that day till the graduation day.
Right. So basically, IITs, I was 2013 to 17. We both had the same dates there. And so when I joined, for sure, I remember the first guy I met was Piyush. And Piyush is this really tall and a little bit fat back then guy and a very good friend of ours. And so I was like, the IIT में काफी सही बड़े लोग भी हैं. And he was standing in front of me in a line, and then we chatted. And so over the first few days, I chatted with, I think, Piyush, and then Kapil came to my room, and then Dudupudi came, and so we were all friends. And then I think on the third or fourth day, I would have met you after we were just figuring it out. And yeah, I mean, meeting you, the first impression that I got was there's this really studious guy with kind of curly long hair, a thinner face, but the same dedication as I see in him today. And you were just like screaming onto something. कुछ कर रहा था, कोई एग्जाम की तैयारी कर रहा था, कुछ तो कर रहा था. And since you were really studious, I think you were always studying. So I think that was the first time.
Yeah, I think we all were studious.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, after IIT, I wasn't, right? I was studious only before
at that point of time.
At that point of time, maybe we were. So yeah. So that was interesting. एक चीज जो हम पहले भी कभी डिस्कस कर रहे थे कि आप जब अपने peers को देखते हो जाके कॉलेज में, you kind of do this comparison on daily basis, or you feel really overwhelmed by how good everybody is. तो जो हम पहले डिस्कस करते थे कि एक जावा की क्लास थी हमारी पहली, जिसमें देयर वाज अ शीट दैट वाज पास्ड अराउंड एंड हम सारे सबके नाम लिखे हुए थे, ऑल कंप्यूटर साइंस स्टूडेंट्स 70 पीपल, एंड देयर इज इन अ बॉक्स एंड यू हैव टू राइट व्हाट ऑल प्रोग्रामिंग लैंग्वेजेस डू यू नो. एंड सो सब लोग अपनी, किसी कोई एक लिख रहा था, किसी की कोई नहीं थी. आई थिंक यू रोट नथिंग, एंड मेरी 2 थी तो मैंने 2 वो लिखी थी, जावा, सी प्लस प्लस. एंड देन देयर वाज दीस 2 guys on that list who had written one of them had written 19 languages, 19 programming languages.
Jay और Kapil.
Jay and Dhaval
or Kapil, okay.
Yeah, so these were the 2 guys who were always like ahead of everybody. And so at that point I was like, fuck यार, ये इतनी सारी लैंग्वेजेस, हमें तो 2 आती है, हमें तो 3 आती है, किसी को तो एक भी नहीं आती और इन्हें 20 आती है. And so that day on, I realized that yes, the competition here is tough, and obviously ranks don't matter. And even the people in our batch who had worse ranks or not that great ranks were still kind of so much better than us while over there. So that didn't matter, and then we had to get into a very new kind of grind. It was also a big social development for me. I mean, I was a really antisocial person, very much an introvert, which I guess nobody would guess seeing me, but I was a big introvert. If a girl would come sit beside me during a coaching class in 11th or 12th, then I would just get up and go away because then I would feel really shy. So I was was a big introvert, but then all of that changed through IIT, through all of the different things that I did and different responsibilities I did. And एक मेरा बस पॉइंट क्लियर था जब मैं IIT आया था कि भाई इतने साल पढ़ाई कर ली, 4 साल से 9th ग्रेड से घिस रहे हैं, कैलकुलस लगा रहे हैं, वी आर वेरी गुड एट इट, बट अब मेरे को कॉलेज में आके सब कुछ करना है. मेरे को बंदी भी घुमानी है, मेरे को कोई फेस्ट भी ऑर्गेनाइज करवाना है, मेरे को अंत में पॉलिटिक्स में भी घुसना है कॉलेज की, और सब कुछ करना है. उसमें CGPA नहीं था लिस्ट में तो वो ऑप्टिमाइज नहीं किया, बट बाकी सब कुछ किया मैंने 4 साल. सो इन दैट एक्सपीरियंस एंड द लास्ट कैपस्टोन एक्सपीरियंस ऑफ बीइंग अ जेन सेकी ऑफ एंटायर IIT Roorkee in 2017, and like so many students, just you're responsible for all of the things that are happening to them. And through that experience, all of that, towards the end I came out like an extrovert, kind of confident guy, which obviously goes up and down all the time, but I came out as a very different person than I entered. So beautiful transformation, and I just love how I changed.
No, yeah, in fact, I really appreciate the kind of growth you have had, because right from first college, we started coding, developing projects, and the real introduction of computer science and the entire tech ecosystem happened. And then you also switched gears during your third year around also to get into multiple activities around this politics stuff and magazine stuff and so on and so forth, and eventually it has led to a lot of overall development you have as a personality right now.
Right.
But it's also a matter of going definitely out of the comfort zone, because that was also like, I also see my college life, and I also thought this back then, that college life is more about discovering your interests and passions on the lines of what you are doing, or even at the sides, right? So even that was my lens to look at it, and hence tried the most stupidest thing you can think of as well, which is like directly or indirectly not related to what your core goal being an engineer is, but yeah, you just try out things. For example, being a weightlifter, being a thinny guy and a weak guy. I don't know why that happened, but the whatever happened, right?
So as the story goes, basically in 4th year, I suddenly sometime heard कि अरे यार वैभव थर्ड ईयर में अरे यार वैभव वेटलिफ्टिंग कर रहा है. क्या वैभव तो कुछ और करता है ना, और वैभव तो वेट लिफ्टिंग नहीं करता है, कभी नहीं देखा. सो दैट वाज वेरी सरप्राइजिंग कि नहीं यार, ही चोज अ वेरी न्यू, वेरी रैंडम थिंग एंड वेंट एंड ट्राइड इट. सो दैट इज वेरी रिस्पेक्टेबल. कई बार हम लोग वी आर फियरफुल कह लो या अनइंटरेस्टेड कह लो, बट देन समटाइम्स सेरेंडिपिटी हैपेंस. मे बी you could have been a great weightlifter today.
No, I think at least I don't have a regret of saying that, okay, I am capable of doing something. It was not something whether I took a bet from someone and say that I'll go and do it. But probably at that point of time, I wanted to be strong, right? Then I was stronger than actually I was. And I thought this could be a good way to, get into that, plus be a sports athlete kind of a thing and have that. So I thought it would be fun. But eventually, after I think 1 or 2 like internal competitions only, I realized that probably it needs more dedication and more, let's say, time, which I was not willing to dedicate at that point of time. But good that it happened, right? Teaches you a lot. Weightlifting teaches you a lot in general.
And that drive is still alive, by the way. So I think you posted this story 1 month back. Oh, does anybody know Muay Thai? So now you're looking for somebody who can, help you with Muay Thai or some sport that you mentioned in that story. So you're still, trying new things and interested in new things.
I mean, that thing, only pushed out and took that little bit of fear. I mean, no one is fearless in the practical terms, but took majority of the fear of, getting shamed or getting laughed at and, worrying too much about other people's perspective, whereas it is more about your own thing, right? How you see yourself in your head is far more important than how anyone else in the world sees you, right? Because you are going to live with yourself the most as an individual in this entirety. So you should be speaking right to your mind and appreciating or whatever, right? It cannot be something which is depreciating you as a person. Having said that, I think the IIT journey, to sum up, was great for both of us, and I think I've seen you grow a lot from where you were while I met you first to where you were while you graduated. And I remember I had this clear impression of you while you were graduating. We were anyways good friends, but also that, bro, this guy is going to do things, in a very ambitious way, very audacious way, and just give his heart out and his blood, sweat, everything to what he does. And of course, if you are chasing ambitions, right, you are so ambitious, you will do something really great with your life. This was my clear impression, right? And we also felt lucky to have you as a friend at that point of time, because you were too harami. and just we vibe that way.
No,
But
I
yeah,
super appreciate that.
would love to know more about your, let's say, your perspective or your impression about me, the overall impression about me on the graduation day when the entire journey you have seen.
Right. Me, our impression similar. We all have a lot of mutual respect for each of us. We all work very hard, and I feel like the two of us, especially, are designed in a very similar fashion. We're more or less probably. So there's this personality test called MBTI, personality types, so 16 personalities, and I feel like if we ever give the test together, we'll have the same personality type. So that way, I could relate with you always. If anybody would have asked me, hey, why did Vaibhav go weightlifting, or why did Vaibhav try this new thing? I could understand why Vaibhav did it, because I would have done that too. And so that way we are very similar, and I could totally relate with everything that you did. And so towards the end, the impression was the same. Like, there's this guy who can just get into it, and like who has the courage to go very deep into something, even if it's like 10 inches of concrete, he'll still go fight through it and put his head to it. So that is really appreciable, that you had that strength and courage to always go very hard at any problem, right? So that was great. Obviously fun to be with, fun to do parties with, fun to just chill with. And we have had so many times like that. So great guy, always a positive vibe, always very hardworking. And I also knew that Weber for sure. I didn't know about big or small at that point, but I knew that whatever he did, he'll just kick ass at it. Like he'll go all in. He'll spend a decade, 2 decades building whatever he's doing and doing it beautifully. And then he won't back down. He'll face his own share of problems and he'll have all kinds of challenges, but then he'll definitely go through and then punch as hard at the wall as he can. And that was the respect. And throughout the years, obviously, the choices that you've made and the startup that you've started, Air Black has been doing so wonderfully. And that's because you've put in, and I've seen you put in everything that you had. I wish sometimes I was that courageous.
No, yeah, I think thank you for what all you said, because I paid some money to you. So it was fair on you to do that. Right now, when I look at the thing when we were moving out of the college and we were choosing or being chosen for certain companies and so on and so forth. I moved to Bangalore into GS. You were with another company, but eventually ended up in Goldman Sachs together when we were same time period, right?
Right.
And from there onwards, after a moment of time, I started looking for startups and saying, okay, I want to try out that stuff.
Right.
While majority of that batch Janta at, we were just 1.5 year into college, into the job world, but not many were moving to startups then. And I took that plunge. And I think I remember discussed this with you also and couple of few close friends that I'm going to take this decision. And the response was not very positive or at an average, but yeah, neutral, I would say. So yeah, I took that bet. But tell me more about your journey, because your journey has been again a journey which involves a lot of steps, and those are not like equal size steps. Sometimes you are taking a small step, but the other step is way bigger than the length you can actually spread to, right? So moving from a job to starting something on your own and without any market level knowledge, and also eventually shutting it down to now doing multiple things, right? So I think you have taken steps of different heights and sizes, right? And which led to a better growth, which I can see as a person for you today,
right?
Both professionally and personally. So बताओ यार अपनी जर्नी के बारे में, क्या कैसे डिसीजन लिए, क्यों लिए?
यार डिसीजंस थोड़े से क्लियर थे कि मेरे को कॉलेज के टाइम पे मैं एक्चुअली प्लेसमेंट भी नहीं बैठा था बहुत टाइम तक, बिकॉज आई रियलाइज दैट आई डिडंट लाइक टेक दैट मच. Maybe I'm not a great software engineer. I mean, I cracked multiple really tough things in programming. I had gone to ACMI CPC, I had cracked GSOC, but then even then I just didn't feel the love for it ever. So I didn't want to do a tech job, and so I wanted to go into finance. I took a certain job with another bank just because I was really pressured into it, and like 67 out of 75 folks in our batch were placed, and I was like one of the 7 or 8 people who weren't, even though I had good skills. And so I was like, chalo yaar kuch le lete hain, and then we'll figure out the rest. But the plan was always to get into the finance side of GS and doing more financial problems than just tech problems. And my intern was GS Tech. I bet they didn't like me, so I never got a PPO. But then later I went back to a GS finance department, which was a tough process. I gave 26 interviews, which I think is like one of the highest in that years by Goldman. And so it was a tough process. But then I eventually wanted to get into finance. The false side of that is that I thought not tech equals to finance. I didn't know there's some other kind of business, right? Like I thought कि यार tech side नहीं जाना तो business side जाते हैं.
I think
business माने finance.
You were thinking more from a Goldman Sachs or a investment bank kind of a lens.
Maybe.
Where you think about tech and strats.
Right.
And hence only the two divisions.
Yeah, exactly. So maybe I also didn't know so much about startups back then. कुछ नाम सुनाई देते थे, but मुझे लगा startups क्या ही होते हैं, दो चार होंगे, कुछ बड़े Flipkart है, कुछ है, startup है शायद. तो ये सब पता था हमें, and so I didn't know कि यार एक वो भी टाइप का बिजनेस होता है जिसमें actually business करते हो आप जाके, आप फाइनेंस में उतना बिजनेस नहीं करते. And so that point I just took that incorrect decision of thinking that not tech is equal to finance. But interesting job, obviously बहुत सीखा, बहुत न्यूयॉर्क वगैरह भी गए. It was fun, and throughout that period did a lot of very finance heavy things. So that was really good. But then I eventually realized कि यार finance is not a soulful business. Like क्या ही कर रहे हो आप दुनिया के लिए? Nothing to say, they have a very important role to play. But एक analyst के लेवल पे यार दिखता है कि मैं तो बस मंडे को ही रिपोर्ट पढ़ता था कि यार ये we made this much money in credit business, this much money in so it felt like कि यार need a higher purpose, and सिर्फ ऐसे फाइनेंस वाला बिजनेस नहीं चाहिए मेरे को, ढंग का कोई प्रॉपर बिजनेस जाके जो दुनिया को बदले is what I wanted to do. And so that's when I always felt, and then during COVID I took the plunge to start my first company.
Tell us more about the company you started and what was the journey there.
Right. So first startup was called Euphoria Club, and then changed its name to InGig because I realized I didn't know how to give good names to startups. And so that product was for, again, with a slightly social angle, where I saw musician friends who were totally out of jobs because bars and pubs had shut down, and that's where they make most of their money. So suddenly their income was zero as soon as COVID started, right? And so I really wanted to help them out, build something that helps them make money online. At that point, people used to do Zoom shows, just concerts and all on Zoom, and that was obviously very sad because you've been looking at the same app the whole day, and you had people you disliked on the other end, and now suddenly you have to watch a show on it. It's just not as fun. People don't have fun. So nobody used to join Zoom shows, and there was a need of a platform that brought more interactivity into an online show. So
like an experience.
Yeah, so people could immerse themselves. We called it immersion, that people should be able to immerse themselves in these shows and then feel that's happening around them. And so we built this live streaming platform, really high quality audio, really high quality video, and invented our own thing called emojis, which is audio emojis. So it's a clap, a haha, a whistle button that anybody in the audience can click, and then it triggers an audio for everybody in the room, and like there's a selection of audios. And so when a musician just is performing, is strumming, and then he stops, and then people can clap through the clap button, and it's like gadgadahat jo hoti hai. There's a gadgadahat in the whole clap, and at that point the musician smiles. And that's the experience that you're kind of making, right? You click this button and the musician smiles, and it's magical. And so an average user in our show would click that button like 600 to 800 times
in a
30-minute show.
Oh, wow.
And so the people just went because it was so addictive. And so we had to build another feature to allow people to mute down those voices if they needed to, because otherwise it became just too loud and people were clapping all the time. So they could also turn down the volume for themselves and anybody wanted. So yeah, that was a very interesting time at InGig. I would say that as a startup, I mean, I could have thought more about that, about what problem I'm solving, about how I will solve it, and how it matters, or who will pay for the product. I didn't think through all of those questions, and I just took the plunge, started building a product, coded something out, and then put out the MVP, I think 20 days after I resigned from Goldman, and did the first show. So I hustled through just 20 days, insane hustling, and building this tool out, and everybody was like on a show in 20 days. So that, I would say that decision could have been well thought through. And then over the year, we went to multiple things. We went to, I think, 2 YC interviews. Obviously, they didn't see a business in what we were doing. They didn't think anybody would pay for that service. And towards the end of the year, as we were executing, we were also part of the Axel Partners Founder Stack program, which just chooses like top 11 startups in India. And so we were part of that. But towards the end, we also realized that, hey, our competition is YouTube. We always thought like Stageit was a competition and Mandarin was a competition. There was all of these startups. But then towards the end of the year, like, yeah, YouTube is our competition. And so I should have chosen my competition right. And then it was very hard to make money in that business because nobody wants to pay for entertainment these days.
Correct.
And that was my basic insight as a first time entrepreneur. And so I decided to shut that startup down, and which was a very tough decision. But yeah, we can talk more about that. But definitely a very rewarding 1-year journey of my first company. Learning so much, seeing so much, networking with the right people. Definitely blessed to be able to traverse that. And I think you were already running your company AirBlack at that point when I started my company.
Correct. And I think that has been an experience which, personally, based on the conversation I've had with you, has changed you a lot, has given you some more models to think through, even, before attempting something and getting the right hypothesis and so on. But at least being aware about those things to exist versus just going blindly behind an idea, which is of course great. But the crazy thing, and I would say the great thing which I really like about you, as I also mentioned, is about, taking those higher sized steps. And the next you move is into blockchain Web3 space and say, okay, I'll explore this, I'll learn this, and eventually build a services company around it.
Yeah.
Right? Even hire and build a team of great engineers. So tell us more about it.
Yeah, for sure. I guess through all of these experiences, which are generally very hard, like shutting down a company is hard. And Elon Musk once said that it's like staring into the abyss and chewing glass, which is ultra painful and lonely.
About building a startup.
Yeah. So that's like building a startup. Feels like that. And at that point, when I shut my first company, I could totally feel that statement every single day. I wouldn't want to get up, and it was really tough. And so there are periods of really low lows in life whenever you're taking these big steps, right? Sometimes you get to the next step successfully. Sometimes you hit the wall and you fall down. And so you go back and then you go climb it again. But then through all of that, I just have this mentality where, like, there's this really popular quote that I really relate with, is throw me towards a pack of wolves and I'll come back leading it. And so I really wanted to keep that mentality in me, even though I know that everybody around me is so much smarter than me. But I've had that mentality throughout this whole time. And so that was about the thing with blockchain. Like when I started attending it, I was like, all right, this is the pack of wolves that I'm going to lead. And so I spent some time, I think 4 or 5 months, really learning, going deep. And I was amazed, and I couldn't take my eyes off the blockchain implementation, the Bitcoin white paper, and smart contracts, and all of these really futuristic things everybody was talking about. So that was very, very interesting to me. And I realized that there's an opportunity that most companies did not have blockchain devs with them, but they wanted to do blockchain products. And so finding the right blockchain dev, hiring them, giving them the right salary is all tough for these companies. And blockchain was an experiment at that point, more than anything else. So people wanted to go experiment with blockchain without being able to hire engineers.
Especially fintechs, I guess, because the financial use case of blockchain was suddenly all over the place, which also is true, but maybe take its own time. But I'm sure multiple fintechs across the globe would have attempted to build so many solutions around it.
Right, exactly. It's a great asset class. It is also a good payment method. And so many fintechs are built around these two things. And so most people try to integrate it. And that was a very good time to, provide people blockchain devs. And it's a services business more so. So you can take good margins and then you give them the best product. So you want to deliver them. So, and we differentiated ourselves in a way. We said, hey, we're not a vendor, we're a partner. So whenever you're giving us a project, that also means that we own that project now. And so if we don't do anything properly, obviously you guys should tell us. But if you didn't do anything properly, I'm going to call that out as well and hold you accountable for your own product. And so that's the kind of partner I want to be, and I want to be by your side till your product is launched. Mostly we were just developing, we weren't helping with growth. So it was just tech solutions. I wish I'd done more growth, and maybe we will now going forward. But yeah, that way we were just like very close partners to the point that one of our top customers, they're a unicorn company, their head of crypto said that in terms of execution, you guys are the best team I've ever seen. So that first time when I heard that statement, I was like, this is going on our website, because it's such a cool thing to be able to hear that. And he's worked with all sorts of teams all over the globe, and so he said that. And we were just like me and another guy and just one employee, and so that's just the two of us. We delivered it really well. So that was a great experience, and from then haven't looked back. Been doing blockchain stuff. Obviously blockchain market has taken a hit, but it's going to come back for sure pretty soon. But the technology still remains strong, and as you all might have heard, and you've heard as well, that there's a central bank digital currency. Tamil Nadu land records are on blockchain, and all of that is happening. So that's that. But we're now trying to do even more interesting things, not just in the blockchain space. So not sticking to a technology, but solving a problem. And if the technology applies, it applies, but then really going on solving core problems that we have now seen in the world over 1.5 years of execution.
So basically, eventually also building your own products for different kind of use cases you believe in.
Yep.
And then can go deeper into that along the breadth you already have.
Right.
Great, yeah. I think the journey which I have seen over the last 2 years you have had is amazing in terms of the grit and the resilience you have carried through the entire journey of, not taking that fall by heart and just giving your best again to something which is it's like an unsolved territory right now. And even building on top of it, learning so much. And now
you're making me blush. That's all.
I also, look up to you for certain things and to seek advice, especially in different areas. And of course, we both exchange different kind of notes in different areas. But yeah, I think overall, if I see Aniket, transforming in the last 10 years, I am so happy and proud to have you along to just communicate on a personal and a professional level and discuss about so many things in the world, right from the awareness and meditation concept to even building companies and working with people and understanding yourself, so on. You are at a very great stage of your life, and I think the way in which you are applying energy to your goals and seeking ambitious and audacious goals, I'm sure you are just going to multiply here in terms of growth, and that is what I would want to wish for you in the future. And बाकी तो यार अपन fun करते ही रहेंगे.
I'm just taking decisions now that you already did 4 years ago, so I'm just following the guru.
I think it's more about the journey, yaar. Matlab, there is no defined time for doing anything, right? People have built companies starting at the age of 50. We have Indian examples as well, right from Nika to whatnot. So yeah, it's just uncomparable.
Yeah.
For that matter. But,
that's a very good point.
Yeah, I mean, if you treat me as a guru, it's fine. You can always get some money for the learnings. Chalo, cool, yaar. Thank you. And बाकी अपन फन करते हैं. I hope our audience liked this episode and had some perspective about growth mindset, about just navigating the journey and building things. Thank you for tuning in, and thank you, Aniket.
Thank you so much. See you all.